One of the reasons I enjoy reading the Bible is because of the brutal honesty of the authors. In Psalm 73, the psalmist is clearly struggling with doubt. He writes, "But as for me, my feet had almost slipped. I had nearly lost my foothold. For I envied the arrogant when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. They have no struggles. Their bodies are healthy and strong. And me? I'm losing. I'm getting beaten up. I'm sick." And so the psalmist talks about how he began to envy the arrogant, envy the wicked, because they have no problems, no struggles. It seems like the sun just shines on them and they prosper and succeed. Then he entered the sanctuary of God, which is just a poetic way of saying he entered the presence of God. And in the presence of God, God gave him an eternal perspective. And the psalmist began to realize that in the long run, evil will ultimately lose, because there will be a day of judgment, and God will destroy evil. And then at the end of Psalm 73, verses 23 through 26, he comes out with one of the most beautiful statements in the Psalms when he writes, "Yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand, you guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will take me into glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And being with you, I desire nothing on earth. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." The psalmist understood, regardless of how much the wicked prosper and succeed, regardless of how many people who try and do good fail and get beaten, God is with us when we trust in Him. The witness of God is crucial. Now, what I like about the psalmist is the way he dealt with his doubts. He talked to God about his doubts. He didn't suppress his doubts. He didn't sweep them under the rug and deny them. He talked to God about them. He prayed through his doubts. That is crucial for all of us in handling doubt. Pray through your doubts. Talk to God about your doubts. Secondly, realize that when you doubt, what is happening is there is a competing belief that you are seriously entertaining. That's a challenge to realize. Too many people think, I doubt, and that means I'm just doubting what I believe. No, you're not just doubting what you believe. There's a competitive streak to doubt. There's a competing belief that is wooing you, that is seeking your allegiance. So figure that out. Analyze, what is the option that is so attractive to me that I'm beginning to doubt what I believe? The next step in handling doubts is understand and analyze both what you believe and the competing belief, looking for problems. I, as a follower of Christ, along with the psalmist, struggle with, why do innocent people get hurt so deeply? It's not right. It's wrong. I don't know how many people have said to me in an outrage, if God was really good and if He really was loving and powerful, He would not have allowed that evil tragedy to occur. Here's the problem. Although that is a problem, there's a bigger problem. And the bigger problem is, if there is no God, there's no basis for outrage. For you see, if there is no God, you have a bigger problem with evil. Evil doesn't exist. Because if there is no God, there is no basis for the distinctiveness between good and evil. If there is no God, there's no mind prior to the human mind who defines what is good and what is evil. Which means, if there is no God, morality is relative. And yet you can't live that out. I can't live that out. Nobody can. Why? Because when you get married and your spouse hurts you verbally or by something they do, it really hurts. And you look them in the face and say, you should not, you ought not to have done that. That was wrong. No, there's no such thing as really wrong. It's relatively wrong. You can't live that out. Neither can I. Why? Because you have a conscience and you have a rational mind. And your conscience and your rational mind inform you that certain things are right and other things are wrong. And guess what, friends? Evil is real. Evil is not just the construction of the Enlightenment. Evil is not just the construction of an ethicist on an Ivy League campus. Every single human being on the planet has a conscience, which means we all are able to understand the difference between justice and injustice, right and wrong, good and evil. And the only reason that evil really exists. And the only reason goodness really exists is because there is a God who has defined what good is and what evil is. And you and I, by exercising our consciences and our rational minds, can tie into reality. You struggle with doubts, I struggle with doubts. What you and I ought to do is, when we doubt, is examine alternate beliefs. In other words, learn to doubt your doubts. Learn to hold on to an accurate picture of God. There are so many faulty assumptions floating around about God. Many people think, if God is really good, I should have a red carpet ride through life. If God is really fair, then all wicked people should lose. Those are false expectations. Why? Because the all-powerful God has chosen to partially limit his power by creating us with a free will. Why did he do that? Because he loves us, and he wants us to love him. And love, in order to be real, must be free. It cannot be manipulated. It cannot be coerced. And that is why the cross of Christ is so powerful. Jesus Christ bled and died on a cross, offering you and me an option, a gift, forgiveness, reconciliation with God, and eternal life. You and I don't have to accept Christ. We don't have to respond to his love positively. We can be apathetic, we can ignore him, we can outright reject him. Or we can choose to trust in him. I'm asking you, isn't it time for you to move beyond alternative options to Christ? Because there are really big problems with every one of those alternatives. Isn't it time for you to put your faith and trust in Jesus Christ? Because the evidence is he really does love you. He really is a good God. Give him a chance. Read the Gospels. Examine him carefully. And then, based on the evidence of his trustworthiness, put your faith in him. God bless you as you make that most important decision.